So this is the GTX 980 Ti, which was the top dog back in the day, a couple years back, and was the closest thing you could get to 4K gaming performance that was somewhat smooth. But we're going to see what it holds up in 2018 with some modern titles and games that we use for benchmarking, so let's get into that. What's up guys, my name is JD from JDTechGear and welcome back to the channel where we discuss PC patch reviews, guides, mods, and more. So if you're into that sort of thing, consider subscribing and checking out the rest of the channel to become part of the Tech Junkie family. So the 980 Ti that we have here today is from MSI and it's the Golden Edition, which is no different from the regular gaming edition, but just with the gold skin on it. So in terms of cooling and overclocking performance is no different from a regular MSI gaming 980 Ti. So to run down some of its specs, we have a core clock at 1178 megahertz and a boost clock up to 1279, and I had 2816 CUDA cores, which is more than the 1070. So this card is often compared with the 1070 in terms of performance, but the 980 Ti can actually outrun it just a little bit when it's overclocked. But other than that, this card looks pretty slick. I know gold is kind of flashy, but it's cool to see this kind of collector's card. So the test rig that we're using today is an 8600K at 5 gigahertz. It has 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM at 3200 megahertz, and we're using optimal settings with these games. And if you want a more in-depth video, I have a video about it over here talking about a 1070 and getting 4K 60 FPS gaming out of it by turning down some of these settings, which mainly included turning down some of the post-processing and some of the anti-aliasing, which really didn't make too much of a difference in terms of visual quality. But anyways, let's get into the gaming benchmarks. So for Doom, we have an average frame rate of 68.9 FPS, which is very solid, and a 1% low of 52.8 and a 0.1% low of 51.7. So not too much of frame dipping here and there. So the performance all around was pretty smooth and enjoyable, and also above 60 FPS, which is pretty nice to see. Next is Metro Exodus, which is an older game, I know, but incredibly graphically intensive. And we have an average FPS of around 46.2 FPS, which is okay. It's not really that close to 60 FPS, but it'll do. And we have a 1% low of 34.4 and a 0.1% low of 32.8. So we did have some frame dips at around 30 FPS, but nothing dropped below that. So it's pretty nice to see close to 4K 60 FPS, but not quite. So we'd have to turn down some of those settings in order to get that 60 FPS golden mark. Now, the next game is PUBG, which had an average FPS of 53.2, which is pretty good, but for PUBG, a game like that, you probably want way more than 53 FPS. Also, we have a 1% low of 39.9 and a 0.1% low of 35.4, which is a decent margin from 53.2 FPS. So there were some dips and stutters and stuff like that, but overall was a pretty smooth experience all around and was pretty consistent from going inside, outside, and in different environments. So that was nice to see, close to 60 FPS. But again, probably turn down like some of the foliage and texture settings to boost it above 60 FPS. But nonetheless, this looks really good for the 980 Ti. Battlefield 1 is the next game, and we have it at almost 60 FPS at 59.2 for the average FPS, and a 1% low of 46.2 and a 0.1% low of 7.5, which there was one major stutter that actually caused that 7.5 FPS drop. So that was pretty major and very noticeable, obviously. Other from that, everything else was pretty smooth because the 1% low frame rate was at 46 and the average was around 59.2. So that was pretty nice and pretty close together. So other than that, it was pretty smooth all around. And the last game is Fortnite with an average FPS of 52.7 and another massive frame drop with a 0.1% low of 1.8 FPS, which is very drastic. Now, there were just a couple of frame drops that were massive. So we would have to turn down some of these settings. Now, Fortnite, don't let it fool you, is a pretty decently graphically intensive game. So I had all the settings cranked up except for anti-aliasing and post filtering. And also you can decrease the resolution scale just a little bit more to still get your full resolution, but a little bit in degradation in terms of video quality. So you can do that, and you can turn down some of those settings that I also had applied, and you would be able to bump that FPS mark well above the 60 FPS mark. So other than that, the 980 Ti still almost crushed it close to that 60 FPS mark, which is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, in 2018, yeah, I'd say this can keep up at 4K 60 FPS at near ultra settings. Some of the games you might have to turn down some of the settings, but it is very capable, and I absolutely love the 980 Ti. It can edge out a 1070 just a little bit if you overclock it, but like I said, it gets pretty toasty. so I don't do that. So if you guys want to check out this card, it'll be in the link in the description. On eBay, you can check these out for around $250, which is a fantastic price to performance value, and you can get decent 4K gaming performance at $250 for a graphics card, which is pretty insane to say that. Now, if you want to check out that video about the 1070, that'll be over here. And if you want to check out some other PC parts that you might be considering for your next build or your future build or your first build, check out this playlist over here. And if you guys are new to the channel here and want to see more content like this, let me know, and also consider subscribing and checking out the rest of the channel. If you want to support me and what I do here, I have merchandise like this shirt, also have PC art over here that you can purchase, and also Patreon down in the link in the description below for exclusive bonus content. So thank you all for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.